A narcissistic ego is often a delicate structure, despite the outward appearance of confidence and control. It thrives on constant admiration, validation, and the reactions of those around it. Without this reinforcement, the ego can become unstable and vulnerable. Understanding this is essential because the goal of addressing such an ego is not revenge, but protection of one's own emotional well-being. Narcissistic individuals are extremely sensitive to the attention they receive. Praise feeds their inflated sense of self, while conflict or emotional reactions can give them a feeling of power. One of the most effective ways to weaken this fragile structure is to refuse the engagement it seeks. Emotional neutrality becomes a strategic tool. When a narcissist tries to provoke arguments, create drama, or manipulate situations to their advantage, responding calmly or not reacting at all removes the psychological rewards they expect. Silence, indifference, and measured responses act as subtle but powerful disruptors of their influence. Over time, the absence of emotional fuel undermines their sense of control. The key is consistency. Sporadic reactions can inadvertently reinforce their behavior. By maintaining calm, one communicates that manipulation and intimidation no longer yield results. This approach does not mean ignoring reality or suppressing emotions. Rather, it is about consciously deciding not to be drawn into the cycles that give their ego strength. Recognizing the patterns of attention-seeking behavior and responding in a controlled manner gradually reduces their perceived power. Emotional detachment, therefore, is a form of empowerment, preserving personal energy and stability while destabilizing the narcissistic system. It is crucial to remember that the goal is not to humiliate or punish, but to protect oneself and remove the ability for the narcissist to influence one's mental and emotional state. By consistently refusing to provide the reactions that feed their ego, one effectively diminishes the control they hold, creating space for self-determination and emotional freedom. This approach relies on patience, self-awareness, and the understanding that the narcissistic ego cannot sustain itself without constant external reinforcement. The subtlety of this strategy lies in its non-confrontational nature. It quietly removes power without direct conflict. Over time, the narcissistic individual finds their manipulative tools less effective, their influence waning. In this process, one learns not only to manage interactions with difficult personalities, but also to cultivate resilience, self-respect, and the ability to maintain personal boundaries in challenging situations. Through emotional neutrality, one demonstrates that inner peace and self-control are stronger than attempts at manipulation or domination, ultimately revealing the fragility of a narcissistic ego. Setting firm and consistent boundaries is one of the most effective ways to limit the influence of a narcissistic personality. Narcissistic individuals often test limits because they believe rules and norms do not apply to them, and they seek to push others into submission. When someone establishes clear boundaries, they challenge the narcissist's sense of entitlement and disrupt the control they attempt to exert. Boundaries are not about arguing, proving a point, or changing the narcissist's behavior. They are about defining what is acceptable and what is not in interactions. For example, refusing to tolerate disrespectful language, manipulative tactics, or intrusion into personal space communicates that influence cannot be gained through intimidation or coercion. The effectiveness of boundaries lies in their consistency. A boundary is only meaningful if it is upheld every time it is tested. If exceptions are made under pressure, The narcissistic person learns that persistence or aggression can eventually override limits. Initial resistance from the narcissist is common, often manifesting as anger, criticism, or attempts to create guilt. These reactions are not signs of failure. They are signs that the boundary is working. The narcissistic ego perceives limitations as a direct challenge, and the discomfort or frustration it causes signals that the individual's attempts at control are no longer effective. Maintaining clarity about one's limits, coupled with calm and deliberate enforcement, gradually reduces the narcissist's ability to dominate the relationship or situation. Boundaries serve as a protective mechanism for one's own emotional health, reducing stress and anxiety caused by unpredictable manipulation. They also reinforce the idea that one's autonomy and self-respect are non-negotiable, signaling that emotional influence can no longer be easily gained. Over time, consistent boundaries create a predictable environment where the narcissist's tactics are less likely to succeed. Establishing these limits requires preparation and self-awareness, as well as the willingness to remain firm despite attempts at provocation. It may involve distancing oneself from repetitive conflict or clearly communicating consequences for boundary violations. The process is not about confrontation or punishment, but about reclaiming personal power and control over one's own life. By adhering to boundaries, a person demonstrates that they are no longer a passive participant in the narcissist's games. Instead, they become an individual with self-respect, capable of protecting their emotional space. In doing so, the narcissist's inflated sense of authority and manipulation begins to weaken, as the structured resistance removes opportunities for domination. Consistent boundaries empower not only the individual enforcing them, but also serve as a model for healthy interpersonal dynamics, showing that influence cannot be demanded, but must be earned through mutual respect and understanding. Over time, the narcissist learns that their attempts to control or manipulate are largely ineffective, which gradually undermines the sense of superiority they rely on to maintain their ego. Independence is a crucial factor in weakening a narcissistic ego because it removes the leverage they rely on to manipulate others. Narcissistic individuals often attempt to influence decisions, opinions, and even personal identity, believing that control over others enhances their sense of superiority. When someone develops true independence grounded in personal values, goals, and self-trust, the narcissist's attempts at control become far less effective. Independence is not just about making choices without consultation. It is about maintaining confidence in one's own judgment and not being swayed by attempts to distort reality or instill self-doubt. A narcissist thrives on creating emotional dependence, subtly undermining autonomy to ensure others rely on their approval or guidance. By fostering personal independence, one cuts off this source of power. This requires consistent self-awareness, the courage to make decisions aligned with personal principles, and the ability to remain emotionally steady when the narcissist attempts to provoke guilt, shame, or insecurity. Independence also entails cultivating a life and identity that are self-sufficient and meaningful beyond the narcissist's influence. When someone prioritizes their own growth, goals, and values, they communicate that approval, attention, or validation from the narcissistic individual is neither necessary nor influential. Over time, this independence directly challenges the ego that relies on external reinforcement. The narcissist may react with attempts to reassert control through criticism, manipulation, or subtle undermining, but a firmly independent individual is prepared to recognize these tactics without succumbing to them. In essence, personal independence acts as a shield, creating a buffer that protects emotional stability while simultaneously weakening the narcissist's capacity to dictate perceptions or actions. It shifts the balance of power in interpersonal dynamics, making it clear that influence must be earned rather than demanded. Additionally, independence helps in identifying and resisting patterns of manipulation that often go unnoticed when one is emotionally entangled. By asserting autonomy, one not only safeguards their own well-being, but also demonstrates to the narcissist that control cannot be taken for granted. This process may require patience and ongoing reinforcement, as narcissistic personalities are persistent in testing limits and boundaries. The ultimate effect of sustained independence is the erosion of the narcissist's sense of omnipotence. Their reliance on others for validation and control is challenged, leaving them with fewer tools to maintain dominance. It is a gradual, strategic approach that emphasizes self-respect, personal growth, and the ability to remain emotionally grounded. Over time, the narcissist learns that attempts to dominate or manipulate are ineffective against someone who is fully aware of their autonomy and unwilling to surrender it. True independence, therefore, becomes a transformative mechanism, protecting one's identity while subtly dismantling the foundations of a narcissistic ego. Holding on to truth and accountability is a powerful method to destabilize a narcissistic ego, as it challenges the distorted reality they often create to protect their self-image. Narcissistic individuals tend to rewrite events, deny responsibility, or exaggerate their achievements to maintain control and superiority. When someone calmly and consistently addresses facts, they confront the false narratives that support the narcissist's inflated sense of self. This does not require confrontation or aggression. Rather, it is about maintaining clarity and integrity in communication. For example, calmly restating what actually happened in a situation without anger or justification can remove the space in which manipulation thrives. Accountability reinforces the idea that actions have consequences and that attempts to evade responsibility will not succeed. Narcissists often resist truth because it threatens their constructed identity, and holding firm on reality can create discomfort or insecurity, subtly weakening their perceived authority. This approach also serves to protect one's own mental and emotional stability. By refusing to accept lies, exaggerations, or blame shifting, an individual maintains personal clarity and reduces confusion or self-doubt that the narcissist may attempt to instill. Consistency is crucial, as sporadic insistence on truth can be dismissed or challenged without effect. When truth and accountability are combined with calm detachment, they become an unshakable framework that exposes the limitations of the narcissist's ego. The narcissistic individual may attempt to gaslight or provoke defensiveness, but maintaining composure ensures that the engagement does not reinforce their power. Over time, repeated exposure to accountability can cause frustration and diminish the confidence the narcissist relies on to manipulate or dominate. This strategy is effective because it does not rely on emotional reactions, but on clear, unwavering adherence to reality. It also serves as a model for healthy interactions, demonstrating that truth cannot be ignored or easily distorted even in the face of persistent manipulation. The act of holding to reality shows that personal boundaries are respected and that attempts to deceive or control are ineffective. While it may not change the narcissist's personality, it reduces the avenues through which they can exert influence. Ultimately, relying on truth and accountability creates a structure in which manipulation is harder to achieve, eroding the foundation of the narcissist's ego. It cultivates resilience, clarity, and confidence in the individual enforcing these principles. In this way, truth and accountability function not as weapons, but as shields, protecting self-respect while subtly destabilizing the mechanisms that sustain a narcissistic personality. Consistent adherence to facts and responsibility demonstrates that the ego built on deception and distortion cannot withstand the quiet force of clarity and integrity. Refusing to participate in a narcissist's emotional games is one of the most effective ways to weaken their ego over time. Narcissistic individuals often operate in repetitive cycles of admiration, conflict, and reconciliation, creating drama that keeps them at the center of attention. As long as someone continues to engage in these cycles, the narcissist maintains influence and emotional control. Walking away or disengaging does not signify weakness. It demonstrates clarity, strength, and the prioritization of one's own well-being over attempts to win approval or control outcomes. Disengagement requires recognizing when interactions are being manipulated or designed to provoke an emotional response. By refusing to provide this response, one removes the reward system the narcissist relies on to sustain their ego. This approach demands both awareness and discipline, as narcissistic personalities are persistent in drawing others into arguments, guilt trips, or attention-seeking behavior. Over time, consistent refusal to participate communicates a clear message. Attempts at manipulation, provocation, or control will no longer succeed. Importantly, disengagement does not mean avoiding reality or ignoring consequences. It is about consciously choosing which battles are worth attention and which interactions are unproductive. The emotional energy that narcissists seek cannot be extracted if one maintains boundaries, emotional neutrality, and focus on personal priorities. Walking away or emotionally detaching is a form of self-respect, signaling that peace and stability matter more than proving a point or satisfying the narcissist's need for dominance. When a narcissistic individual perceives that their usual strategies, whether charm, anger, or manipulation, no longer yield results, their ego begins to weaken because the foundation of attention and control they rely on is no longer available. Disengagement also allows for mental clarity, helping one avoid unnecessary stress, confusion, and self-doubt that often arise in prolonged interactions with manipulative personalities. The cumulative effect of stepping away from repeated cycles is that the narcissist's sense of superiority and omnipotence is gradually undermined. Without consistent reactions or emotional engagement, they are forced to confront the reality that influence cannot be taken for granted or demanded. Over time, this creates space for healthier interactions, free from manipulation and control, while reinforcing personal boundaries, self-trust, and emotional resilience. Ultimately, refusing to participate in these games is not about winning over the narcissist. It is about reclaiming autonomy, maintaining integrity, and demonstrating that inner stability and self-respect cannot be compromised by someone else's attempts at domination. It is a quiet, powerful strategy that chips away at the ego by removing the very fuel it depends upon for survival. Emotional detachment is a critical tool when dealing with a narcissistic personality, as it prevents their attempts at manipulation from taking root. Narcissists rely heavily on eliciting strong emotional reactions to maintain a sense of power and control. Anger, guilt, or even anxiety from others feeds their ego and reinforces the belief that they can dominate situations. By consciously practicing emotional detachment, one removes the reactive fuel they depend on, making their usual tactics ineffective. This does not mean ignoring reality, suppressing feelings, or becoming cold. Rather, it involves observing the situation with clarity, choosing responses intentionally, and maintaining calm regardless of provocation.